Have you ever disliked someone and then later on understood that the problem was actually not them? Because the same way that I think that it happens with me, I really think that it happens with more people as well. And I'm going to tell you a story because I do want us all to come to realize that sometimes the problem is not them, but it's actually us. And if you are here, welcome to my channel. My name is Claudia, and if you want to change your mindset, reach your goals, become better each day, then don't forget to subscribe me for more. And let's get into the video. I'm going to tell you a story. So there was this new girl that she joined the team and she was really enthusiastic. She very much wanted to get involved in different projects, help with things, contribute, learn. And when you look at these things, they are actually good qualities. But for some reason, this one person felt very irritated by their presence. Let's call this person A. Initially, person A was thinking, why does she have to get involved in everything? Why can't she just leave my stuff alone? Why does she need to be part of everything? And the more it happened, the more person A would get annoyed. This literally happened for a few times, and then person A decided to go to the manager, and we all know what that means. So person A sat down with the manager because she really wanted to just let it out, all the complaints that she had about this girl, which let's call her person B. Person A really wanted to just brag about how she was taking over her project and basically start a whole conversation of things that person B was doing wrong. However, before person A went to the meeting, she actually decided to sit down and get a piece of paper. And she literally wrote down exactly what was bothering her. And this is what she wrote down. The situation is that this girl actually wants to get all of my projects. And then she asks herself, okay, but what is actually wrong with that? And then immediately, in a split of a second, her brain wanted to say, because she's annoying, but that wasn't the true answer. So she kept asking, why is it annoying? And then she found out the actual reason. And the reason was because she wanted those projects to be something of herself. She wanted the projects to be hers. When she reached that conclusion, she then started asking, okay, why do I want these projects to be mine? And then she understood that she wanted to feel like she had something, that something was hers, that she created and finished something, that she accomplished something. And suddenly everything changed because now she understood that the problem was actually not the girl, not what the girl was doing, but something that she had inside of her. Because if you think about it, there was nothing wrong with the girl. She was enthusiastic, she wanted to contribute, she wanted to care about the work. And if we think about this is all good qualities that, someone normal would have. The real problem was that she wanted ownership for something. She wanted a project that she could think that it was her, that there was something that she could focus on, there was something that she could develop. And once she understood that, she no longer needed to make person B the villain. So when she sat down to speak with the manager, instead of saying, oh, this girl is really annoying me, she keeps getting involved in everything that I'm doing, she was able to have a very good conversation. She was able to say, I like her enthusiasm and I really think that you picked like someone perfect for our team, but I realized that I actually value to have something that it's mine, something that I can take ownership of, that I can focus independently. And then she went into the conversation actually looking for something that she could have that could be hers. And the manager said, of course she can, because there was many things to do and that wasn't a problem at all. The problem was solved. There was no drama, there was no damaging relationship, there was no awkward moments between person A and person B. And this experience reminded me of something I really think we all should practice more, is that we should become more curious before we actually start criticizing. Because some things, what you are criticizing on the other person is not really what is upsetting you. Think about how quickly we create stories about other people. And I have spoken about this in my last video, but sometimes when someone doesn't reply to you, you direct that to, oh, they don't care about me, or they don't respect me. You don't really think that maybe something has happened that has caused them not to message you. Someone starts to interrupting you, and then you start thinking, oh, they think they are better than me. And again, sometimes these conclusions that we have of people are incorrect. And no, I'm not going to sit here to tell you, look, every time that you have those interpretations interpretations they are wrong. No, of course not. Sometimes they are right, but most of the times they are wrong. And the dangerous things is that once we decide who someone is, we start to see everything they do in that one moment, in that one thing. If you decide that because of one moment someone is selfish, then suddenly every reaction that you see of them is going to be selfish, no matter what. If you decide like someone is very jealous, you suddenly see them being jealous in everything. The same if someone is annoying, the same if someone is curious, the same if someone is judgmental. Because when you criticize them, you already have in your mind, I know that they are like this. I already know why they did that. But when you practice to be curious and act with curiosity, you start to think, is there any other explanation for this? Is there any other thing that I'm not seeing, that I'm not catching? Maybe something underneath the story. But when you criticize, it just completely closes the case. Is that, and that is what it is. But when you are curious, you start to investigate. You investigate why things happen. And when you are emotional, mature, you learn how to investigate before you start convicting someone of something. And in this story, another thing that I saw is that sometimes the way that you feel is actually information if you stop and think. Instead of asking what is wrong with them, actually ask what is actually bringing this irritation on me. Because maybe you feel irritated because you feel excluded, or maybe it's because you are jealous of something that they have done, or maybe because they have something that you wanted to have, or maybe you feel threatened because you feel insecure about your own position, your own work, your own ideas. Maybe you are very angry because you feel that someone has crossed your boundaries. And no, I'm not saying that every negative emotion that you may have is because there is something wrong with you. Sometimes people are disrespectful. Sometimes they really behave badly. Sometimes you should 100% distance yourself from someone. And in any way, shape or form, I'm trying to say that curiosity means that you need to be naive to the facts that are in front of you, or excluding bad behavior that they have towards you, but it's just becoming more accurate about the views that you decide to keep about someone else. And I would rather you respond being accurate to what is actually happened than destroy a relationship over a story you created in your own head. So here is a few simple exercises that you can use next time that someone annoys you or that you feel some type of way that you don't know exactly why. I call this situation, story, need, and then response. The first thing is, what is the situation? And so you're going to literally write down the facts, not your interpretation, but the facts, actually what is happening in front of you. For example, she interrupted me 3 times during the meeting. That is a fact. If you start writing things like, oh, she has no respect for me, she had no respect for me in that meeting, that is your story, that is your conclusion, that is not a fact. Another example, if we want to use the message, okay, someone has not responded you for what, 3 days? That's what you're going to write down. This person has not responded to me in 3 days. That's a fact. No one can argue with that. But now if you start saying, oh, they didn't care about me, they didn't message me because they think I'm very annoying, like that's already a story. Like that's a story that you're telling in your head. So that's not a fact. And we need to be able to separate these two things. There's a difference between what is factual and what is the story that you have created in your mind. Because we often actually suffer more from our interpretation of what has happened than actually the event itself. The second thing is the story. So what story are you actually telling yourself? And here, be completely honest. Maybe your story is, she's trying to take my place, she thinks I'm stupid, they're excluding me. Write it all down. You don't need to judge yourself for thinking it. The point is simply to recognize that it is an interpretation of what has been happening to you and not necessarily a reality at this moment in time. And you should ask yourself, what else could it be true? Because in situations, maybe people are nervous, maybe they have misunderstood what you wanted to say. Maybe they were so excited that they start speaking about things that they didn't know, and maybe they didn't truly know that they have crossed a boundary. We have to put all of these into perspective and actually think outside the box, and also understand that, come on, people have lives. Maybe they are dealing with something that it's completely unrelatable to you. Everyone has their own issues that they have to heal and deal with, and that also creeps into most situations that happen in our real life. You need to really make room for the possibility that your first interpretation is not exactly the one, is not exactly correct. Okay, third thing thing is, what do I actually need? This is literally the question that can change everything, because under everything that we criticize is actually an unmet need that we have. Maybe you need reassurance, maybe you need recognition, maybe you need space, maybe you need to be more clear in your communication, or you need to feel more included. There's so many things, but once you actually identify what your need is, you can actually do something about it. You stop saying you are the problem and you start saying this is what I need actually, and this is a completely different conversation that we start having. So think about your needs. Okay, the fourth thing is the response. So what response would the best version of me actually choose? Again, I said the best version. I didn't say the emotional version of you, not the version that you're trying to prove a point, and not the version that wants to gossip about 5 different people that have crossed your way and not meet your needs. But actually ask yourself, if I was operating from confidence, maturity, self-respect, what would I do next? Would you ask them a question? Would you communicate your boundaries properly with them? Would you let it go? Would you speak directly to them instead of talking about them in the back? Would you admit that you misunderstand them? Would you move yourself because the behavior genuinely feels and looks unhealthy? What would you do? The goal is not to never feel irritated. We are all human beings, so we always going to have this type of feelings. You are still going to judge people sometimes, and you are still going to judge them incorrectly. But I always say growth is not reaching a point that you never have those type of reactions. Is actually when you get there and then you do something different after. And I really think that this is one of the habits that can change your life, because imagine how many unnecessary arguments begin with simply an assumption. Someone had the wrong assumption and that's it. That's game over. Like, that's the beginning of all problems. How many friendships end just because one person decided what the other person meant without asking, without having the conversation, without asking, just having that in their mind? How many problems do we find at work that actually become big because 2 people start defending themselves against intentions that the other person never had in the first place? How many relationships become exhausted because instead of saying, when this happens, it makes me feel insecure, it makes me feel bad, like one creates a conversation and the other one creates a defense. But curiosity leaves room for understanding. And now I wanted to say to you, like, what is the benefit of all of this? Because in reality, it makes it very hard for you to be disturbed, because when you stop taking everything personal, everything people do starts to offend you. You literally stop handling everyone else's control over your emotional state. Someone can be quiet without you assuming they hate you. Someone can succeed without you deciding that their success diminishes yours. And the same way that someone can disagree with you without you deciding that they have disrespected you. And in my view, that is very much freeing, because you stop reacting to every little thing. You observe more, you ask better questions, you communicate more openly to people. It's different. And you become someone who is much more difficult to put in unnecessary drama. So next time you catch yourself criticizing someone, try not to immediately silence your thoughts, but use it. Ask questions. What happened? What story am I telling myself? What is it bringing up in me? What do I actually need? And what would the most mature version of me actually do in this situation? Because sometimes you're going to walk through questions that you're going to understand and realize that the person has not crossed any boundary, that they haven't done anything to you wrongly. There was never really anything wrong with them. There was just something inside me that needed to be understood and communicated better. And I genuinely think one of the biggest signs that you are becoming a better version of yourself is when you stop needing everyone else to be wrong in order for your feelings to be valid. You can acknowledge how you feel, you can understand where it comes from, and you can communicate what you need. And you can do all of this without turning someone else's into a villain. So this week, whenever someone irritates you, before you criticize them, get curious, because sometimes the question really saves the relationship that you guys have. If you like this video, again, subscribe for more and stay tuned, because every week we have new videos into this channel. See you guys. Bye.